You study functions, you start to look at domain and range, and I've got a little picture of what I'm talking about over here. Notice that this blob called x is being mapped over to this blob called y, and the mapping is being done by a function called f. So when you look at the domain is going to be the set of all possible x values for a function. It's the set of all inputs. And the range is going to be the set of all possible y values or outputs of a function. So I wanted to look at all three types of ways that you can study a function, and I want to characterize each type, and then from each type I'll show you how to find domain and range. So this first type of characterization is called a mapping. A mapping. Notice that we have a set for x and we have a set for y. The set x contains all the x values, and the set y contains all the y values. So we already know what the domain is. The domain is going to be the set of all x values, or whatever's inside this x blob. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So the domain is going to be the set containing 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is the set of all x values, the domain. And then the range is going to be the set of all y values, or whatever's inside this y blob right here. So the range is going to be the capital letters A, B, C, and D. So that's the set of all y values, or the range. And the function is not clear right here. I'll just write f. The function f is going to say how these inputs are associated with these outputs. Over here, I have a chart. Also known as a table. And you can look at a function table and figure out where the x values are and where the y values are. The domain, or the x values, are always going to be on the left side, and all the outputs, or the range, is going to be on the right side. So the domain is going to be the set of all x values. It's going to be the set containing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to put all these numbers inside the domain set, and then I'm going to close it up. And then the range is going to be the set of all y values, or whatever's on the right side. 1, 4, 9, 16, and 25. So 1, 4, 9, 16, and 25. And that's how you use a chart. The last way to do domain and range and to represent functions is called a graph. It's called a graph. And this is where you can graph functions, or you can graph ordered pairs, and you can take the domain and range from a graph. So the domain is going to be the set of all x values. So when we write these dots as ordered pairs, we're always going to put the x value first and the y value second. So looking at all the x values, I'm looking at the x-axis. And wherever the dot is on the x-axis is going to tell me the x values, or the domain. So the first x value I see is for this dot right here, and it's at -4. So this domain, the first element is going to be -4. This next dot is at -3, so I'm going to write -3. The next dot is at 0. It's on the y-axis, so I'm going to put down a 0. The next dot is at +1, so I'm going to write down +1. And then the last dot is over here at +4. So that's the domain. You've got -4, -3, 0, 1, and 4. And then the range, I'm running out of room, so I'm going to go up to the side. Let's look at all the y values. Well, the y values are going to be determined by where the point is on the y-axis. So looking at the first point, I know that it's at 4 on the y-axis, so I'm going to have a 4. The next dot is at a 1 on the y-axis, so I'm going to put in 1. The next dot is at -1 on the y-axis, so I'm going to have -1. the next dot is at 3, and then the final dot is at 5. So I need a 3 and a 5. And then I close up the set. And that is the range. So looking at all three of these types of functions, you can look at a mapping of a function, you can look at a chart or a table, and then lastly, you can look at a graph and figure out the domain and range. And that is domain and range of a function.